Welcome to Advocate with Dr. Rufus Lowe, where we aspire each and every day to eradicate the silence of good people who allow bad things to happen. And in doing so, we can together provide a new and glorious path forward for all. Our conversation will be based on the teachings of my latest book entitled Shadow Tolerance, Your Guide to Accepting Racial Difference. Shall we begin?
And yes, they're socialists, neo-socialists. They want government to control your life and tell you how to live it. It's hard to believe that anyone can fit that much stupid into their head, but they can. But that's not the defining characteristic of this crew. The defining characteristic of this crew, Sean, is contempt. To be a member of their club, you have to have contempt for America. Not gratitude, as you should, contempt. You have to believe that America was wicked when it was founded and that it's more wicked today. You have to believe that America is racist and sexist and unjust.
First of all, I want to thank Senator Kennedy of Louisiana for his honesty and his candor. And although I disagree with his views, I always applaud free speech, whether I agree with it or disagree. Why is that? Well, because public speech and text give me an opportunity as a podcaster to counter-argue and voice a calm rebuttal. So without further ado, please allow me to dissect Kennedy's speech, because there's a lot to unpack here. Let's talk about socialist or socialism. The very first comment from Kennedy tells me that he has issue with anyone he sees or views as a socialist. The one thing I hate about persuasive rants in this particular case is the inability to define labels and terms. If you're going to identify your critics as socialists, damn it, tell me briefly what a socialist is. Okay, well, I'll do research on that on my own because I feel like I have to. I wonder if a socialist is the same thing as a fascist. I know what that is. It's research time for me. So, what is socialism? Socialism is a political and economic system where society, usually through the government and government cooperatives or communities, owns or regulates the means of production. That is, industries, resources, and services like factories, farms, and healthcare. The main goal is economic equality and reducing that gap between the rich and the poor, instead of private companies owning most of the resources and businesses. Socialism emphasizes collective ownership and or strong regulation to ensure that wealth and opportunities are more evenly distributed. It's different from capitalism, where private ownership and profit are the main drivers. Socialism can take different forms. In a democratic socialist society, example in Scandinavia, or all the Scandinavian countries, this combines democracy with strong social welfare programs like universal health care, free education, and worker protections. Authoritarian socialism, on the other hand, like what we see in the Soviet Union, the government controls nearly everything, often limiting personal freedoms. Who is a socialist, by the way? A socialist is someone who believes in socialist principles that wealth and power should be shared more equally. Advocates, or people that don't like policies such as public health care, free or affordable education, labor rights, and redistribution of wealth, taxes, and social programs, do not like that form of socialism. This may be part of a socialist political movement or simply hold socialist ideas in order for you to be a socialist. Not all socialists agree on how governments or how much government should control. Some want complete government ownership of major industries, while others just want strong regulation, and social safety nets within a capitalist network. So to a degree, they're all socialists. In short, socialism equals a system where resources are owned or managed collectively to reduce inequality. And a socialist person is a person who supports or works toward that system. Philosophical and cultural reasons. Individualism versus collectivism. American conservatism, which the Republican Party represents, is rooted in the belief that individual responsibility and freedom, private property, are central to prosperity. Socialism, with its emphasis on collective ownership and redistribution, feels like the opposite. It reduces individual control over wealth and choice. The fear of government outreach is what Republicans often say and argue. Socialism leads to big, intrusive government that limits personal freedoms and creates a dependency from usually marginalized people. Historical associations. We have the Cold War legacy. During much of the 20th century, the United States defined itself against the Soviet Union, which claimed to practice socialism, communism. For many Republicans and Americans in general, socialism became synonymous with authoritarianism, censorship, and economic failure. Link communism, even though socialism isn't always communism. Republicans often blur the two. They use socialism as shorthand for dangerous left-wing ideology that could threaten democracy. Economic beliefs. Faith in the markets. Republicans believe capitalism and competition are the best drivers of innovation, efficiency, and wealth creation. They argue socialism kills incentives by rewarding everyone equally, regardless of effort or risks. Concerns about taxation. Many socialist policies like free health care or college require higher taxes, especially on businesses and wealthy groups. Republicans see as vital to job creation. Political strategy. A rallying cry. Labeling democratic policies as socialist has been a powerful political tool. Even moderate reforms like expanding health care or regulating Wall Street are branded as socialism to energize the conservative wing of voters who fear government control. Protecting traditional values. Republicans often link socialism with secularism, liberal cultural policies, or European-style politics, things many of them and their voters see as un-American. In short, Republicans despise socialism because they see it as a threat to personal freedom, free markets, traditional American values, and capitalism itself. It's also deeply tied to the Cold War history and serves as a useful political weapon against Democrats. Government control versus small government. What they say, Republicans say, they argue for limited government and freedom from state interference or federal interference. That's what they oppose, or why they oppose nationalized health care, stronger welfare systems, and higher taxes. What they do at the same time, many Republican lawmakers support strong federal control over cities, especially liberal cities, democratic cities, ones like Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, New York, when it comes to issues like policing and crime policy, issues like drug enforcement, immigration crackdowns, banning, restricting local progressive laws, an example being on gun control, minimum wage, or housing policy. Here's the hypocrisy. They oppose big government when it regulates business or redistributes wealth, but they kind of embrace it when it forces social order or limits of liberal policies. Social programs versus corporate welfare. Healthcare and welfare. Republicans resist government-run health care and welfare, claiming they create dependency, subsidies, and bailouts. And yet they frequently support subsidies and tax breaks for corporations, farms, and fossil fuel industries, which is also government intervention, just directed at wealthy and powerful. Another hypocrisy. They frame helping the poor as socialism, but helping corporations as protecting the economy. Local control versus federal power. What they say, Republicans often champion states' rights and local control, arguing that smaller governments know what's best. What they do in practice is something different. They override cities or seek to override cities and states when those places pass progressive policies. Example, blocking D.C. from legalizing certain local policies like marijuana or voting rights reforms. Passing state-level preemption laws that ban cities from raising the minimum wage, creating sanctuary city policies, or regulating the government. Hypocrisy again. Local control is only respected when it aligns with conservative values. Freedom versus morality laws. What they say is this: Republicans frame socialism as dangerous because it limits individual freedoms. What they do instead is many simultaneously push for government restrictions on abortion, LGBTQ rights, school curricula, and voting access, areas where individuals might expect more freedom. Here's the hypocrisy of that. They oppose government control over money and health care, but they embrace it over morality and personal life choices. Here's the core contradiction. Republicans often present themselves as defenders of freedom from government, but in reality, their philosophy is more like, government should stay out of the economy when it comes to regulating business or redistributing wealth that benefits or is benefiting the rich. Government should step in when it comes to enforcing conservative social values, controlling progressive cities, democratic cities, or strengthening corporations. That's why critics call it selective small government, small for the rich, big for everyone else. So in summary, Republicans promote the idea of small government, but in practice they expand government power selectively, shrinking it when it benefits corporations and the wealthy, and expanding it when it enforces conservative social values or reins in on progressive or cities with democratic mayors.